So today we are going to cover, or in this video, we're going to cover how to read and write to a file. It is, relatively speaking, something that's not too complex to do, but it's going to take a little bit and we'd want to do it right. So we're going to cover a video, we're going to do a video covering it. So we're going to go File, New File, and I'm going to call this file io.py, which is IO is input and output. And we're going to start with just the proper way to do this with open a.txt, comma w, and as file dot write hello, and then we are going to end the program. So that is a 2-line program. I think I did only one mistake in my 2 lines of only one mistake in 2 lines of code, which I feel like is pretty good. And I'm going to revise this. Instead of that, it's going to go W plus. That was my mistake there. And then I'm going to run this file. And we've got this a.txt here. And if we open a.txt, it has this word hello right there. Now, PyCharm is reading this as some weird file format. Don't worry too much about that. We'll deal with that in a little bit. Never mind. For now, at least, the reason why it's red is just PyCharm's being a little bit weird, and I'm not going to worry about that now. The important thing, though, is to realize that we wrote a file. We created this text file, and we wrote the word hello to it. If we run our code again, and we open our a.txt again, it just totally overwrites it and puts the word hello there again. Now that's annoying because we wouldn't want to write, we'd want to be able to add. So let me explain the details of what the heck these 2 lines mean, and then we'll talk about what to replace to make stuff change. So with as, this line is basically saying, I want you to do, we're going to use this for whatever block of code this is, and then once this block of code is done, we're going to close whatever I did over here. So more specific, so when I say with, open this as file. So what it does is it runs this, and it takes whatever it gives me, and it says, hey, that's a file. This is a weird thing, and another way to do the same 2 lines of code, right? If I comment these out and just make this a little simpler, I would say file equals open, and I'd still go a.txt, and I still go w plus, and just to show you that this works, I go file dot write, and we'd say a different hello. Run the same program again, open my hello file, and now it says, hey, it's a different hello. Okay, so why the heck am I not doing this? Why am I doing this weird with open whole block of code thing? The answer is that when you open a file, it creates an ongoing connection to that file, which is useful because we want to be able to read and write and add to that file. For example, if I write multiple times over here, right? If I write hello 4 times or 5 times and I run this, it will actually write the word hello 5 times. And if instead of write, I say write line, and we add this and we run that. Oops, sorry. Write lines, my mistake. We run that, and now you'll see it actually didn't do anything. Kept it the same way. The point, though, is write line can theoretically take in multiple lines to write all at once using a list. That's not what we're doing here. The point here, though, is that the easiest way to, because what happens is when you open a file, you're creating what's called a stream to the file, which means the file is now open. The same way if I opened a file in Word, it would just sit open in Word. And what we want to do is we want to avoid the file remaining open forever, so we have to close it at some point. Now, it's easy to forget to close a file, so a simpler way of dealing with the open and closing and just make sure that the object disappears when we're done with it is to use this with as. So this with open this as, and it says, hey, basically do everything in here, and then obviously once you're done, it's going to close whatever's up there. So an easier way to handle that whole open and close thing is we do it this way. That is why we use this syntax. This syntax, as I said, is the same as, or it's very similar to doing this and then closing it when done. But I don't like relying on closing it, and so instead you'll see me use with open a file do that, and with close file do that. So now we got to talk about what the open does. Open is a built-in function. It says it allows us to open text files. It allows us to open any file. So open a file, and then there's this W+. What is W+? Well, W+ is one of a bunch of possible options, and those options allow us to do different things. So write plus also read. And there's three big ones we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about R, which is read, W, which is write, A, which is append. And the way that write and append work is that, and then the plus just says, hey, I want to do this, but also the other thing. So read plus write. It opens it for both reading and writing, and it starts at the beginning. Whereas if I go W, it opens for both reading and writing and starts at the beginning, and if it doesn't exist, it will create it. Now, append mode is it allows us to open the file for, so A, right, opens the file for appending, which is adding to the file. So now if I run this hello, it's actually going to add a new hello. Now, you can't really tell that right away, so we're going to run hello, and we're going to do goodbye hello. Oops, typo there, but goodbye hello. And I'm going to run this now, and I run it a few times, and you'll notice now it actually just kept adding to that. So hello, goodbye, hello, goodbye, hello, goodbye, hello, and so on and so forth. This will keep running forever, but it does this very simple thing of continuously adding by appending. Now, I can't really read in my file with the A, right? I need the A+, and then not only can I write, I can also read in from my file. So if we go print, and we're going to go file.readline. File.readline. And if we run this, it comes back empty. Why? So this is the weird thing about files. If we go, instead of that, if we go write and read plus, and actually, here, we're going to do this. We'll write our code over here that says write, and then we're going to with, and then it closes, and we'll open it again to read it. Open a.txt, oops, and that is supposed to be a string, and they're going to do the other string of read as file, and then we're going to go print file.readline, and we're going to run this. Oh, and that prints out that goodbye hello. And if I run it again, it prints out goodbye hello. Why? Because now I'm writing to my file. So writing means it deletes everything and just overwrites it, and then read just reads from the file. Now, why I have to open this and close this twice is because what happens is it reads the file in order, but the effect of that is that there's a cursor somewhere in the file. By a cursor, I mean literally, you see the little blinking line? So when we do a write, it starts at the beginning. When we do a read, it also starts at the beginning, but when we do a append, it starts at the end. Now the problem obviously is if it starts at the beginning and then I write some stuff, it's going to delete the old stuff, write the new stuff, but then my cursor is going to be at the end of the file again, which means it'll be over here. And now I say, hey, read from here. And the problem is I'm just reading nothing because there's nothing left to read. Whereas if I close the file and I open it up again and I say, okay, hey, now I'm going to read again. And we read starting at the beginning of the file and there's something to read. Now, just for fun, I'd like to show you one other thing about reading. So I've written a couple of lines here, and just to show you how to do, we can write with a /n over here, and that'll actually create a new line. So if I run this again, right, it says goodbye and hello. And since I said read line, it only read the line goodbye. So now I'm going to do quick append. I'm going to say for I in range 25, and then we're going to, and then instead of just writing hello and goodbye again, we're going to actually write, let's just write random numbers in our, let's just create a file with a bunch of random numbers. And so we're going to do import random from random import rand int, and then we're going to go, hey, for I in range 25 file dot write, and we'll just write to the file. We will write to our file, and we will write that's going to be rand int between 0 and 100. All right, so excuse me there, and delete that. Now we save this and we run. Right, this is a problem because this is returning an int and we want a string, so I'm going to quickly use my handy dandy f string to allow me to run the code inside a string and make a new line. So the /n is going to create a new line, and the rand int is going to set a random int, which will result in, if I run this, I've got 25 random numbers, all nicely placed on this, in this text file, each on its own line, which is perfect, exactly what I need. So now I'm going to stop writing to my file. But now the problem is when I read my file, I only read out 79, which is my first number. I don't want to read 79, I want to read all my numbers. So what do? I go for line in, and then I go file dot read lines, and then we'll print line. Now, what is happening here? What's happening here is we are looping through every single line, and we're reading it out. Now, just to make things a little bit more confusing, or just to make them potentially clearer, potentially more confusing, I'm going to do that. What did that do? That was basically, right now, each line ends with a new blank line, and then when I print out a line, right, I automatically print out an end line. So if I didn't say, hey, stop doing a blank line at the end of my line, I end up over here with these empty line between each line, which takes up way too much space. So I said, hey, print statement, I want you to end every line with nothing instead of with a /n. This doesn't matter, right? And you can set whatever you want the print statement to end with, but that's just a fun little side note, right? So the line ends with an empty line, and then on the next line it starts with DSD. It ends the print statement with DSD, which didn't actually want to do, just to demonstrate it for the sake of confusing or potentially clarifying things. This has been a pretty long video, but writing files is an important topic, and so it's important to just get a handle on the basics and a good way to do it. Now, if I want to store this information for later use, what would I do? I would create a variable up here that's a data equals an empty list, and then I'd go data.append line, And now I can go print data, right? And if I run this, it wants an empty line at the end of this code. And then if I run this program, what'll happen is it prints out my list, and you see how each string has that /n at the end. And we can talk more about like data processing once we get to that at a later date, but for now at least, I want you to see how to read and write files and what happens there. If you have any questions, as always, feel free to ask them, and I will do my best to answer as quickly as possible.